what I'm gonna say. You can go watch the playback. I want to get straight to it, right? And we're gonna go ahead and go to screen share. So if you guys leave a comment and I don't get to it right away, I will get to it in a timely manner. While I'm making this talking point, you can feel free to hit the like button if you're new to these parts. Feel free to hit the subscribe button because we're inching ever so closely to that 100,000 subscriber mark right now. Right now we're, a little bit less than, I think, 260 subscribers away from 91K. So we're getting close. All right. And it's going to be a momentous day for the sport of boxing when True School hits 100K. So I'm looking forward to that. But talking point number one, I got roughly what? I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I got like 6 talking points. So I'm going to run through all of them and I'm going to be pausing in between them. And then you guys know how it goes. We've been here before. I'll pause in between them, get to your comments. Next talking point. By the time we get through all of them, if there's still time left and we haven't hit the 2-hour mark, that's the time where anything goes. So y'all know how it goes if you've been here before. But talking point number one, Shingo Inoue, the great trainer, one of the best trainers in boxing. In fact, not only is he one of the best trainers in boxing, I would actually go as far as to say that Shingo Inoue is probably the person in boxing that I want to interview the most, because I put out a tweet earlier. If you guys don't follow me on Twitter, go follow me on Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it. Go follow me on there at True School Sports. I'm always in there having fun, talking crazy, and just having fun with the boxing fans. So go over there and check me out over there. I put out like a list of my top 10 people in boxing that I haven't interviewed yet that I like to interview, and Shingo Inoue was actually number 1. So I got a lot of respect for him and the boxing mind and the trainer he is, and he's coming out. Look, he's coming out. We'll go to screen share. He's coming out and he's not wasting no time. He said, look, my son, he's a great fighter. My son, he's at the top of the game right now. How many will fight? How much more? How many more till you hang it up? Do you got to go out like all the great fighters yesteryear and go out on your back? Can't you just leave the game on top? That's kind of the place he's coming from. But I'll read you guys the exact quote and we'll dissect from there. So here's what Shingo Inoue had to say about his son, the monster, Naoya Inoue, retiring. He stated the following, and I quote, "How many more fights does he being his son Inoue, Naoya Inoue, how many more fights does he need to have? It's about time he retire already. He can walk away cleanly while he's still a legend and at his best. I haven't talked to him directly about it, but honestly, how many more fights does he need? It's enough already. He can retire suddenly while still a legend, while he's still great." And obviously this comes on the heels of the monster. Potentially, they've been talking about him doing a mega fight, of the lighter weight categories with Bam Rodriguez. Obviously, if you've watched me, you guys know I've been talking for like at least 2 years or more about how badly I want to see Inoue try to become a 5-division champion and move up to featherweight, right? Which we'll get to here in a second. But either way, clearly there's something in the gym that Shingo Inoue is seeing with his son that, is leading him to say this, because, regardless of what I think, regardless of what you think, the person that would know the monster better than anybody on this planet will be the dad. He's in there with the camp. He's in there. He's in camp with him. He raised him, right? So I don't think this is do I like the fact that he's talking about this? No, I don't, because I want to see Inoue go to featherweight. However, Inoue has been in a lot of high-level fights, contrary to what a lot of people who hate Inoue say. He has been one of the best fighters in the world for a very long time now. He won his first world title in 14 or 15, and I believe he's competed in 27 straight world title fights, something like that, 27 or 28, give or take. Might even be more than that. He's been through a lot of world title training camps, and I'm gonna tell you guys this, as someone who has been in training camps, like non-world title training camps and world title training camps. There is a difference between regular training camp and a world title training camp. And Inoue has been through 25 plus of them, right? So even if he's been dominant, and he's been dominant for a long time, he barely has lost. You probably can't even name 3 fights in his career where Inoue has lost 3 rounds or more. He has been one of the most dominant forces in boxing for the better part of a decade now. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But regardless of how invincible he looks, boxing is wear and tear on the body. He had to go through a rigorous training camp to put on those spectacular performances. The boxing fans only see fight night. They only see the final product, but they don't see, you know, strength and conditioning. They don't see the sprints up the hills. They don't see, you know, running the mountains. They don't see the 8 rounds of sparring, 10 rounds of sparring, 12 rounds of sparring, 14 rounds of sparring that these fighters do sometimes in a training camp. You understand? And so he's put his body through the ringer, and Shingo Inoue would know best that he should retire. Now, if Inoue does continue to fight, which I think he will, I don't think Inoue is going to retire from boxing, because Inoue has said in other interviews that he doesn't plan on retiring and leaving the fight game until he's about 35 years old. And I believe Inoue is about 32, maybe 33. So we're talking about 2, possibly 3 more years of the monster in the sport. But Shingo is saying that. So the way you could perceive it is you could either perceive it as Shingo Inoue being protective of his son, or you could perceive it as a potential red flag, because there might be some things that he's seeing in the gym that are leading him to say these things. And he wants to get out while, you know, his son is still on top of the game. Because right now, the monster is arguably the best fighter in the world. It's really between him and Usyk. Crawford left the sport, so it's, you know, it's much more of a debate now if Inoue is the best fighter in the world. And a lot of people are saying that he is the best fighter of the world, just for the simple fact that, you know, he's been 2-time undisputed. But it's the combination of dominance, accomplishments, resume, and most importantly, and let this not be lost to anybody, ring activity, the frequency of how much he's fighting. You understand? So he's fighting a lot. He's one of the top guys in the sport, and he's fighting consistently as one of the top guys. And I think Shingo is seeing things in the gym that he's not liking. So, you know, I'm a bit bummed out about that, because, you know, it makes me, it kind of confirms a lot of suspicions I had about Inoue not coming to featherweight, because they've been kind of tiptoeing their way up to the featherweight division. And then you got Top Rank and Bob Arum and Todd DeBuff saying that it's not a good idea for him to come to featherweight. So, I mean, who knows? Who knows what he does? But I don't like. It's different when, see, if I say, oh, Inoue is losing a step and Inoue should retire, y'all will say that's hating or something like that. Or if it's another media member, y'all will say it's hating or something like that. But if the father, the guy that's in the trenches with him every single day, is insinuating that his son retire quickly and swiftly, that should raise some eyebrows, right? And you know, even though he beat Junto Nakatani, and even though I have my criticism of that fight, and I don't think it was this amazing fight like people like to make it out to be, I would say in the back part of that fight, the last 3-4 rounds, you know, Junto had a lot of success, and Junto is very heavy-handed. And when he was able to land on Inoue, there were some flush shots, right? So that could also be playing a factor. Maybe there are some things about Inoue's physical condition after the fight that he knows about that us, the media, and you guys, the fans, don't know about. So we take all those things into consideration, and we'll leave it at that. But anyway, let me go to the comments, because I got like 15 comments sitting there. I want to go and see what you guys are saying. I want to check the temperature on what you guys are saying. Let me see who we got. Jeffrey the Pig, shout out to you. Mar the Prince says that I think Inoue's retirement will be sooner than anticipated. His camp seems to be voicing a lot of concern. First Top Rank executives, now Shingo. Yeah, no. And I'll get to those Top Rank quotes in a second, because about 4 to 5 days ago, Todd DeBuff and Bob Arum spoke out against Inoue going to featherweight. Now, I'll tell you guys this, as somebody who has physically seen Inoue in person roughly 4 or 5 times. And I'm talking about very close. Like I've been in the Ohashi gym. I've seen Inoue in the gym before. He's not very big. He's not. And I remember last year. Was it last year or not last year? But I'll say like very late 2024, when I went into the Ohashi boxing gym, I saw Inoue one time in there, and I couldn't believe how small he was. You know, and it actually makes it that much more impressive with what he's accomplished in boxing, knowing that he's not that damn big. And so you know, I can see why they say that. I know better than most why he says that. Now, look, guys, I'll be honest with you. You guys know I love Angelo Leo, but I don't really want to talk too much about Angelo, because I feel like I've talked about him a lot. I want to kind of move on from Rice Aleem Fight Week. You know, I am wearing an Angelo Leo T-shirt that I designed myself on AngeloLeoApparel.com. Go check that out. Go copy some gear. But I really want to keep the Angelo questions to a minimum, right? Because I want to talk about other fighters. You guys say I talk about them too much, but I'll answer this one question. Jeffrey the Pig says, BT, What do you think of an IBF eliminator between Toshiki Shimamachi and Nikita Nakano? Who do you think wins, and who would give Leo a harder fight? Well, Shimamachi, I was surprised he beat Rhea Abbey. I thought Rhea Abbey was going to beat him, and a lot of people thought that Rhea Abbey did beat Shimamachi, and they didn't give him the decision. Truth be told, I would lean slightly towards Nakano just because he's a bit heavier-handed, but they're both very similar in the way that they fight. They both have the regimented southpaw style that Japanese boxing tends to produce. I'm not really worried about either one of those guys, but maybe Nakano just because of that. There's that one punch factor a bit more, but I think both guys they're not on that level. You know, there's only a handful of guys in and around featherweight that I think will really be any sort of a threat to Angelo, and those guys don't really apply. Just being honest. Inoue definitely has a lot more to give to the boxing world. I can see the reasoning for retirement, but as a selfish boxing fan, I want to see more greatness. Another reason why I'm super happy that Lomachenko was back. Yeah, no, I mean, we'll get to that later on. Who knows what's going to happen with Lomachenko, but no, I've been saying it. Like my thoughts on Inoue have been that he's lost a step. I think he's still very good. He's still one of the best out there. But I've been saying since the Neri fight, TJ Doheny, in and around that time, he's been losing some steps, you know, and that's why he's had to adapt his style. And that's why, you know, you look at the way he was taking those shots from Junta Nakatani, and you look at the way he took those shots from Ramon Cardenas. And I think there's genuine concern from the Inoue camp about potential fights against the likes of Angelo Leo, Bruce Carrington, Rafael Espinoza, and or Brandon Figueroa. Those guys are all going to present some different challenges. They're all heavy-handed. So I get it, you know. You could do the Bam Rodriguez fight, a big fight, a guy who's top 5 pound for pound, and maybe you beat him, and maybe you ride off into the sunset on a high, right? That right there, I think, from a management standpoint, if I'm taking my bias aside, if I'm Inoue's management team, and I'm looking at what I'm seeing, either A, you can retire right now with the Junta Nakatani fight, the biggest fight in Japanese box history, undefeated, 4-division champion, 2-time undisputed, all that blase, or you could either do you could do the Bam Rodriguez fight, a top 5 pound for pound guy, beat him and ride off into the sunset, or you could pick one of the featherweight champions as a grand finale type of a fight, try to become a 5-division champion and see if the chips fall where they may, and then ride off into the sunset. Those are like the potential options I really see for Inoue, but I still think he's great. I still think he has some things to give to the fight game, but I've been seeing it for a while. I've been saying that he's still great, but he's lost a step. This ain't 2023. This ain't 2019. You know, he's like, it's kind of like watching LeBron James or like a Kobe Bryant or even a Dwayne Wade in the later years in basketball. They're still effective. They still know how to get to the rim, and they're still very crafty, but it's not like when they were in their prime and they could take a dribble and 2 steps and boom, got the cup. No, they got to be a bit more crafty with how they Euro step and pump fake and those kind of things. And that's kind of how I see Inoue right now. Inoue has some of the hardest sparring in the game. He does. He's had some crazy camps. You know, you could put together whole cards with some of the camps he's had. That is definitely true. I think Inoue's fight against Bam next year might be his final fight, unfortunately, as much as I want to see him at 126. And, you know, it is what it is. Like, do I like the fact that, you know, he won't be at featherweight? Of course, I don't like that fact. I can't stand that fact. I'm actually very pissed off, if I'm being honest with you. But I understand it from the management standpoint. Them guys at 26 hit very, very hard. And, you know, I'll tell you right now, Tekken Promotions, they know for a fact how hard Bruce Carrington hits, and they know how hard Angelo Leo hits because, you know, Angelo Leo has sparred Subaru Murata. He sparred Tenshin in front of people from Tekken Promotions that are connected to Inoue. And the same goes for Bruce. They've seen certain guys spar Bruce from Japan. So they know how hard those guys are hitting. And then, mind you, Rafael Espinoza's trainer is Sendai Tanaka. One of his coaches is Sendai Tanaka. He's Japanese. I'm sure there's some connection there. They're also very familiar with what Rafael Espinoza brings to the table. And I'm not talking about in terms of watching them on film. I'm talking about in the gym up close. You know, it's different when you see fighters in the gym close to the ring. It's a lot different than when you watch them on tape. And so I'm very sure. I know for a fact they know what Bruce brings to the table. They know what Angelo brings to the table. But I also think they know what Espinoza brings to the table. And so because of that, they're looking at Inoue's current condition, and they're saying, you know what, I don't know if it's a good idea. So I will concur with you. Shout out to Marla Pretty says, BT, as far as Japanese boxing is concerned, how much of a role, if any, do you think the tragedies that occurred in Japan between Shigetoshi Kotari and Hiromasa Urukawa are playing in these decisions? You know, I never really pondered those things. I haven't pondered those things at all in terms of like Inoue's decision making. But you know what? That's actually a hell of a point. You know, over the last couple of years, you mentioned those fallen warriors, you know, and RIP to Shigetoshi Kotari and Hiromasa Urukawa, guys that left it all in the ring, right? Also, RIP to the great warrior Kazuki Anaguchi, who lost his life fighting Seiya Tsutsumi. A lot of deaths have been happening in Japanese boxing, right? And Inoue has a lot of wear and tear on the body. So you're right. It's very possible that those deaths are making the team of Inoue very weary of him moving up another weight class, you know? And they would know better than me, because I'm not in camp with Inoue. Like, they would know better than me, anybody else in the world, just how much he's really putting himself through camps. Like, TSM Harden says, waking up or staying to see Inoue fight might be over soon. Being in camp for basically all last year doesn't help. That is true. Last year he was in camp the whole calendar year, right? There wasn't much time in between. So it is what it is. But anyway, guys, I'm going to